My name is Anna. I am 36 years old, and I have worked as a nurse for almost 12 years. Every day, I meet people who are afraid, tired, or in pain, so I do my best to make them feel safe. Although my job can be exhausting, I have never regretted choosing this career because helping others gives my life meaning. I live alone in a small apartment only a few minutes away from the hospital. My life has always been quiet and predictable. Most evenings, I go home, make a simple dinner, read a book, and fall asleep before 10. On weekends, I usually visit my mother, who lives in a peaceful town outside the city. She always prepares my favorite soup, and we spend hours talking about ordinary things that somehow make life feel less complicated. I have never believed that I was the kind of woman men would notice. I am not glamorous. I rarely wear makeup. My hair is short because it is practical, not because it is fashionable. For many years I convinced myself that love simply was not meant for someone like me. Instead of dreaming about romance, I focused on becoming better at my work and taking care of the people I loved. Everything changed on a rainy Monday morning. Our hospital welcomed a new emergency physician. His name was Alex. He was a few years younger than me, yet he carried himself with surprising confidence. Unlike some doctors who acted distant, Alex greeted everyone with a sincere smile. Within a few days, almost everyone in the hospital was talking about him. Some admired his medical skills. Others simply thought he was handsome. I paid little attention at first. Doctors and nurses worked together every day, so I saw no reason to think he would notice me. However, life has a strange way of changing our plans when we least expect it. One afternoon, the emergency department became unusually busy. Patients kept arriving one after another, and everyone was rushing through the corridors. I was carrying several medical files when one of them slipped from my hands. The papers scattered across the floor. Before I could bend down, someone knelt beside me. "Let me help you," a calm voice said. I looked up. It was Alex. He gathered every page carefully and handed them back with a warm smile. "Thank you," I said, feeling slightly embarrassed. "It happens to everyone," he replied. "There is no need to apologize." His kindness stayed in my mind for the rest of the day. It was such a small moment, yet it felt strangely important. From then on, we started talking more often. Sometimes we discussed difficult patients. Sometimes we laughed about funny situations at work. Little by little, our conversations became longer, and I noticed that I looked forward to seeing him each morning. For the first time in many years, going to work felt exciting for reasons that had nothing to do with my profession. I did not realize it then, but my ordinary life had already begun to change. The days passed quickly, and our friendship became stronger. Alex never tried to impress people with big words. Instead, he showed his kindness through small actions that most people never noticed. If I forgot to eat lunch, he reminded me. If I looked tired after a long shift, he quietly brought me a cup of coffee. Although those gestures seemed simple, they meant more to me than expensive gifts ever could. One Friday evening, we finished work later than usual. The hospital was finally quiet. As we walked toward the parking lot, Alex looked at me and smiled. "Do you need a ride home?" he asked. I hesitated for a moment because I rarely accepted help from anyone. "I'm sure it isn't a problem," he added gently. After thinking for a few seconds, I nodded. "Thank you." His car was clean, and soft music was playing in the background. For the first few minutes, neither of us spoke. Surprisingly, the silence felt comfortable rather than awkward. Eventually, Alex asked, "Have you always wanted to be a nurse?" I smiled. When I was a little girl, my grandmother became very sick. I spent many afternoons sitting beside her hospital bed. The nurses treated her with so much kindness that I never forgot them. That was the moment I decided what I wanted to become. Alex listened carefully without interrupting. When I finished speaking, he said, "The world needs more people like you." His words touched my heart more deeply than he could have imagined. When he stopped in front of my apartment building, I thanked him again. "It was a pleasure," he replied. "I'll see you on Monday." That weekend, I caught myself thinking about him more often than I wanted to admit. On Monday morning, I arrived at the hospital earlier than usual. As I walked into the staff room, I found a cup of coffee waiting on the table. A small note was attached to it. "Good luck today. I know it's going to be busy." Alex, I could not stop smiling. Over the next several weeks, our friendship continued to grow. We shared stories about our childhoods. We laughed over silly mistakes that happened during stressful shifts. Sometimes we stayed after work just to watch the sunset from the hospital garden. Although we never called them dates, they felt special to me. One afternoon, Alex asked, "Would you like to have dinner with me this Saturday?" For a second, I forgot how to breathe. I had imagined hearing those words many times, but when they finally came, I still felt unprepared. "I'd like that," I answered quietly. Saturday arrived sooner than I expected. I chose a simple blue dress that I had not worn in years. As I looked into the mirror, I realized I was more nervous than I had been before any medical exam. Alex was already waiting outside the restaurant when I arrived. "You look wonderful," he said with a genuine smile. I thanked him, hoping he could not hear how fast my heart was beating. Dinner was relaxed and full of laughter. We talked about books, music, travel, and the dreams we had almost forgotten. Hours passed so quickly that neither of us noticed the restaurant becoming empty. After dinner, we walked through a nearby park. The air was cool, and the city lights reflected beautifully on the lake. "I haven't enjoyed an evening like this in a long time," Alex admitted. "Neither have I replied honestly. For a brief moment, everything felt exactly as I had always hoped love would feel. Yet neither of us knew that the happiness we were beginning to share would soon be tested by a truth that neither of us could avoid. A few days later, something happened that I had never expected. Alex asked me to help him organize some medical files after our shift. When we finished, we sat in the empty staff room for a few minutes. He looked unusually quiet. "There is something I should have told you much earlier," he said. His voice was calm, but I could hear the tension behind it. I felt my heart beat faster. "What is it?" I asked. He took a deep breath before answering. "I am married." For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood him. "You are married?" I repeated. He nodded slowly. "My wife's name is Claire." The room suddenly felt much smaller. I did not know what to say. He continued before I could ask another question. "Our marriage has been difficult for a long time. We rarely spend time together, and we argue more than we talk. I never wanted to hurt you." I looked at him in silence. "If you are married," I finally said, "why did you ask me to dinner?" He lowered his eyes. "Because I enjoy being with you, and I forgot how complicated my life really is." His answer did not make me feel better. Instead, it made everything more confusing. Over the next several days, I tried to focus only on my work. Although Alex continued to be kind, I kept a little distance between us. Part of me still cared about him. Another part kept reminding me that he belonged to someone else. One Saturday afternoon, I went to a large supermarket to buy food for the week. The store was crowded with families and children. As I turned into another aisle, I heard a familiar laugh. I looked up. It was Alex. He was standing beside a woman about his age. She smiled as she placed fresh fruit into their shopping cart. Alex gently reached for her hand and said something that made her laugh again. For several seconds, I simply watched from a distance. They did not look like two unhappy strangers. They looked comfortable together. They looked peaceful. Seeing them changed something inside me. Maybe I did not know the whole story, but I knew one important thing. I did not want to become part of a marriage that still existed. Quietly, I turned around and left before Alex could notice me. That evening, my heart was heavy, yet my mind felt clearer than it had in weeks. I finally understood what I needed to do. The following Monday, Alex asked if we could talk after work. I agreed because I knew the conversation could not be avoided. We met outside the hospital as the sun was beginning to set. He looked at me with hopeful eyes. "I've missed talking to you," he said softly. I smiled politely, but my expression remained calm. "I saw you at the supermarket," I told him. His face changed immediately. "You did?" he asked quietly. "Yes," I replied. "You looked happy with your wife." He stayed silent. After a long pause, he stepped closer. "I still have feelings for you," he admitted. "I want to know if we can have a future together." I shook my head gently. "I'm sorry, Alex. I can't accept that." He looked surprised. "Why not?" "Because when I saw you with Claire, I realized something important. You may have problems in your marriage, but you also shared genuine moments with her. I don't want to stand between two people. You deserve to solve your own life honestly, and I deserve someone who is completely free to choose me." He lowered his head without saying a word. "I truly wish you and your wife happiness," I continued. "I hope you can rebuild your relationship if that is possible. If not, make your decisions for the right reasons, not because of me." A few days later, I told my best friend, Sophie, everything that had happened. She listened carefully before smiling. "I'm proud of you," she said. "You chose self-respect instead of confusion." Her words filled me with quiet confidence. For the first time in many weeks, I smiled without forcing myself. I finally believed that the right love would never ask me to become someone's second choice.